How's it, guys? I'm here with Michael Vandenberg, a very dear friend of mine and a mentor who has brought so much love to my life, and I'm very grateful for the love that he has brought and continues to bring. And today I've got the fortunate opportunity to sit down and have a chat to him on some topics that I think are quite relevant at the moment. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Michael. Thank you, Michael, for joining us.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, thank you. It's also such a pleasure. And I just want to tell the viewers as well that I'm sitting with Stephen Carpenter, as he says, a dear friend of mine. And we've walked the path for a long time, and only a short time of it was very intense. And we've come to know each other on a heart level, and I appreciate that very much. I appreciate your friendship.
Right back at you.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
We've decided to record our chat because we can get into some amazing conversations, and we had the idea, well, why don't we set up a camera or so, or two or three, and just start chatting about this, that, and the next thing, and see what we can share with the world, because of the direction that our topics usually go in are quite valuable to me. So let's share this with the world. What have you got in mind?
I think that a lot of the topics that we talk about are also very relevant, and so if there's somebody out there that's maybe dealing with the same thing, there's going to be value. So instead of just having the conversation, have the conversation for everybody.
100%. That's beautiful. I like that. Do you have something in mind?
So I know the last time we were chatting about relationships, and in terms of the relationships, specifically the between the male and the female, in terms of roles and the roles that each individual plays. And I remember you were having a very similar challenge that I was having in terms of the stuff that's been coming up to clear at the moment. And I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah. So my lady Candice, and I are entering a joining ceremony, like getting married, and some things came up for us to clear. Luckily, our consciousness has evolved to a place where we don't go fully unconscious, where we are not aware of what is busy happening. So the ego doesn't get a full grip on us anymore when a reaction comes up. And we could then observe what was coming up from the causal level and not just experience it in the effect level. And for the ones listening to this, if you don't understand yet what that means, is usually when we are just in our first phase of this earth game, then we are just in the effect level. And as we start to develop our consciousness and we experience so many things, and we realize how much suffering we go through when we are just unconscious on the effect level, we start to seek answers. And as we come across the answers of how to distance ourselves, our true selves, from the character that we have made. In other words, the character is the one that believes that I am the thinking mind and I am the emotions in the body, or I am the body. And when we realize that, okay, there is an observer behind that, there is consciousness behind that. Consciousness is not an effect of the mind. The mind is something happening inside of consciousness. So then we realize that, okay, there is a causal level, which is the observer, that is pure consciousness, that can have a much more powerful effect on reality than just this effect level ego consciousness. So what I mean by the stuff that we are clearing then, that we can observe between Candice and myself, that we don't get pulled in by it anymore. So for instance, let me give an example of what I mean by that. So a wound that I have observed that goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden is the mistrust that came in between the masculine and feminine. The moment that the masculine and feminine was experienced in the external, that internal doubt and fear started to express itself in the external expression of the masculine and feminine, which then became the male and the female. And the way that I've looked at it, and then again, this is just my perspective and just what Spirit has shown me. So work this out for yourself. Don't take my word as law. But I experienced that first lie that we believed in the garden was the betrayal. Well, I actually want to call it guilt first. I just want to call it guilt. Because I've looked at how, looking at specifically the masculine and feminine, which is where all the problems started. You know, if we look at, if I can just observe my own past, and in my own past relationships, there was the confusion of I cannot trust the feminine. So the moment that I believe that I cannot trust the feminine, even though I'm with a woman that I love dearly, then if I believe that I cannot trust her, my mind is going to give me the experience, and it's going to, because of the law of cause and effect and the law of what I sow, I shall reap, and this is basically the law of attraction and the law of manifestation. And also the Bible says what I ask, whatever I ask, it is given. So if I'm asking to have the experience of being with a woman that I cannot trust, the universe will serve that experience to me. And,
and that's where the suffering begins.
100%. This is the mole. And also because now I believe that I cannot trust her, then I also become untrustworthy. So that distortion, the moment that it enters the mind, it is in my reality, and it expresses itself in all ways. I will attract friends I cannot trust. I will attract businesses I cannot trust. I will attract all kinds of experiences that I cannot trust, because that is my core belief system. And this is the simplicity of reality. I don't want to veer too much away from the masculine and feminine thing, but we need to understand as well how we manifest. And I've recently come into a much fuller understanding of the difference between being in my mastery and being in the victim, for instance. And it is so simple. Now, I'm going to give it the simplicity of this, and I'm going to use the masculine and feminine as the examples here. And tell me at any point if I'm speaking too much and you want to jump in.
No, I'll jump in now. I've got some.
You got some fire that you want to throw. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So I just want to quickly finish this point, and then I'll give you the floor. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
So as I'm going to use the example now of how I have looked at healing this mistrust between myself and the feminine. And it is literally like a possession that happens of a different algorithm, of a different operating system. So I've got consciousness as my operating system, and when I'm in my true operating system, and I'm using this word just as a play, but when I'm in my true consciousness, I'm in my heart-based consciousness. And my heart-based consciousness is in faith and in trust and in kindness and in love. So I can feel at the moment that other concepts enter my field. So other concepts, other thoughts enter my mind now that offer me something other than that. That start to convince me, or they do their best to convince me that first thing that I saw that came in was, I have sinned. That's the first thing that entered. First I had to believe that I am to blame. I am guilty. And here's the word guilt again. The moment I believed that I am guilty, now I'm going to explain the difference between guilt and responsibility as well. Because I did do something that I felt I needed to take responsibility for doing it differently in the future. But guilt keeps me trapped in the past, and it breaks me down into a small, little, insignificant little creature that now has to grovel for acceptance again.
We've all been there.
Yes, but what I also found the moment that guilt entered me is that I needed to now, I felt the weight of it. It felt like a ton weighing on my shoulders. I felt small and I felt compressed. I felt, oh my God, I haven't felt this for a long time. This is confusing. And as I felt the density of that experience of guilt, because it is such a low and condensed vibration, I immediately looked for, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? I don't want to be here. That was now what my mind went into. And then another voice came in and said, but Candice could have done it differently. She could have been more gentle in the way that she said it. And then immediately I'm like, release. Then turned to Candice and said, but you could have said it a bit better, and you could have done it differently, and you shouldn't have, and you could have, and you shouldn't have. Like now I shifted some of it towards her, which immediately made it slightly lighter for me, but I was still in it, because by now I was just projecting it. And then it opened up, it gave her the opportunity now to go and take that, because now she's like, oh my God, what have I done to my man? Like, have I sinned against him now? Am I now guilty? Which took her into the same process. Now the wound is in play. Now both of us are possessed by it. I didn't take full responsibility and said, whoa, stop the buck here. Do not project it. I did project it and then passed the poison to her as well. Now we are both poisoned.
Okay, so now on that topic, this is, I think, where our conversation actually, when we decided to have this conversation, because this is a similar experience to I had, obviously the details are very different, but when we've taken this poison now we're in it, but we can see, like for me, I could see that I was in it, right? But there was not a damn thing that I could do about it.
100%. I was in the same place. So let me explain how we got out of it. Okay. Cool. It was a 3-day process for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Most humans get stuck in here, including me in the past, before I worked so hard with meditation and my spiritual practice to be more present, to be more equanimous to what I'm observing. I was just in that all the time. I wonder how many lifetimes I got stuck in that. Truly.
Yeah.
How many lifetimes was I stuck in that? Who knows? But most of my life before spiritual awakening, I was stuck in that completely. So complete unconsciousness, and this is my world. And this is what most people live in.
Yes.
So now that I have a little bit more consciousness than what I had before, I could then use that to not go fully into it. I could observe it, but I couldn't stop it. Now it felt like I chose that timeline and it had momentum, and I was working at don't give it power, but it's still the words come out of my mouth. Yeah. I'm like, and the way that it expressed itself was small little subtle things that I would then be offered in my mind that Candace was now doing wrong.
Yeah.
And the cashier at the supermarket was now doing it wrong. And this person was doing it wrong. Yeah. But now judgment was in my mind, I'm possessed. And I'm no longer in my love, I'm no longer in my kindness, I'm no longer in my silence. My mind is now possessed by thoughts of judgment for anything I can find.
Sorry, so the image that's coming to me is it's like, like a train that's going at full speed, and you put the brakes on, but it's not stopping, it's just carrying on.
100%. So now, I know now that, okay, the only way that I'm going to get out of this is if I go sit and I meditate.
Yeah.
I have to now go sit with this and allow it to come into my field and then just observe it, but come to my center. And coming into my center is not believing anything it offers me, but also not rejecting it.
Yeah.
The moment I think that whatever is happening is evil or bad or wrong, I'm instinctively going to have resistance to it, and my resistance is going to completely take me into the unconsciousness, and I'm going to stay there.
Yeah.
Any resistance that I have to my experience now is going to keep me in there because it is an energy of resistance. So now the little bit of consciousness that I have left, if I use that as well to give it resistance, I will go completely unconscious.
And so for me, I always bring it into the body, right? So in that particular example, the resistance that you are talking about, you can feel that in your body.
Exactly.
There is a suffering, right?
Exactly. It is a suffering. It is a contraction of sorts.
Yes.
It's like there's a bit of there's war.
Yes.
I'm at war with my reality now because I'm at war with myself. Remember, I said that it started with myself. Yes. I first believed that I was guilty. So the spirit of guilt has now got me.
Yeah. Okay, and so now you know me, Michael. I'm always like, okay, so what is a practical example of how do you work with this? Now, my understanding is when you are feeling this, the body is the alarm. It's like, dude, you are not in your center.
Yes.
This is not where you're supposed to be. So
Any reaction or contraction is like, wee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my
Out of
understanding
alignment.
is when I'm there, my only role is to bring myself back into peace.
100%.
Okay, so that being said,
what is the method?
What is the method? What is your method?
100%. Thank you for sharing, or thank you for asking that question,
Yeah.
and thank you for sharing. So that it was also over a weekend where we were extremely busy. We were literally from one thing into the next, and did late night ceremonies as well. I think we did 2 ceremonies that weekend. So, and it was early up the next day, and having to, I think we also had, I can't remember what, but we were from one thing to the next thing. So we did make time to get up in the morning and meditate, and I did take my time to meditate in the evening, but I couldn't sit long enough to release myself completely, but I could at least observe it. But the method of releasing it completely is making the time to go and sit until it is done. Go and sit with it until, now the process, what I mean by sit with it is, as I sit with it, I now just go and I come to the breath, come to the breath, come to the breath. Into the stillness. There is no way out by finding the door from the consciousness that I'm now in. I won't find the door in any other method. There's nothing that I need to do differently. Let me explain what that means. When I'm in guilt, it's going to give me, it's going to tell me that I am now in hell, and it's going to give me all kinds of out. It's going to say, okay, you feel uncomfortable, maybe smoke a cigarette. Oh, you feel uncomfortable, maybe have a drink. Oh, you feel uncomfortable, maybe have another cup of cacao. Oh, you feel uncomfortable. Now, not that I have all of these things, but that's the way it works. It tells you now there is discomfort, escape it. Meaning that you are now in hell, but let me give you relief from it. Let me give you this relief or that relief, but distract yourself. Like, just do something that will give you dopamine hits so that you can just relax for a moment. Escape. So if you take those, it will start to turn into addiction, and those addictions will then keep you in the frequency of guilt. That is its job. Because guilt in the first place offered you the out.
Yeah.
So my way out then was come into the center, find the stillness, and just let go of every single offer. No matter how beautiful it looks, no matter what the resolve of this looks like. There is no problem and there is no resolution. So don't look for the resolve of it by believing that there's a problem. Letting go of it is letting go of the thinking that there's a problem. Just let go.
And so then you say you sit, your method is you sit until it's done.
Yes.
So when it's done, how do you know that in your body?
Yes. The nervous system that was contracted is now relaxed.
Yes, okay.
And I can see clearly again, and there is not a particle in my being that wants to find fault with anything anymore.
Yes, suddenly you have a more loving perspective.
100%. So my perspective about my reality has gone back to love and peace and kindness. I'm no longer at war. So now I know that is released out of my system.
Okay.
So it is, and I just want to say that in the beginning when you start this, there's going to be a lot of sitting that needs to take place and a lot of work before you can feel that you are absolutely at peace. But I just want to finish this. But at least when you are in a specific topic, like my topic was, I am guilty of doing something that I shouldn't have. Instead of noticing, okay, the way I did it was not in alignment with my surroundings, let me just adjust, let me make an adjustment, and forward I'm going to work with that adjustment. Instead of blaming myself for what I've done wrong and going into the sin and the guilt of it, I drop all that whole story, and I just say, okay, make adjustment, move forward like this, done.
Sure.
That's the way. That's the difference between taking responsibility. Responsibility takes me forward, guilt takes me back. And it keeps me trapped in a perpetual loop of past. Oh, I shouldn't have, could have, shouldn't have, should have. No. I see, I notice, make correction, move forward.
Yes. very, very clean cut,
100%.
which is yeah, in this kind of stuff, there's, because what will happen is the minute there's no clean cut, that the mind steps in and wants to feed you something else.
Exactly.
So for me, what I wanted to say earlier when I interrupted you, sorry about that, but like I like to go into nature. I like to find a tree and I sit there, and for me it's about finding a more loving perspective. So I will sit there until whatever it is that I'm looking at is not making my body feel the way it was making it feel earlier. Yes. And then normally what happens for me is when I get to that stage, it's like, okay, I remember, I think the guy's name's Aaron Abcott.
Aaron Abke.
Yes. He was the one he coined this phrase. He says it's cleaning up after the dog. So normally when I get to that point, it's like, okay, who've I got to go and apologize to? And then off I go. And it's like, listen, guys, I'm sorry, because this is not how I want to show up. I want to show up in love, and that was not love. So, and I think owning up and claiming, like you said earlier, responsibility for your actions is super important. And it's not only for the people that you're doing that for, but especially for yourself too.
Yes.
It's the way I said is like training a dog. It's like, I won't accept that behavior. This is the behavior. I kind of think maybe that's also where you said this. You pointed in a direction, and then it's like that.
Yes.
I won't accept.
Make correction and move.
This is how it's going to be from now on.
Yes. Yeah. So my method is exactly the same, but I cannot reach a different perspective or a more loving perspective if I haven't found my center first.
Yes. No.
So finding my center is first being an acceptance of the uncomfortability.
Yes.
So I first sit and I feel, okay, this is uncomfortable. Okay, the mind is busy. I accept. And then sit with that for a moment and sit with it in such deep acceptance that it fades. Because my resistance keeps an energy of resistance going and growing. Where my acceptance, which is Buddha's word of equanimity, kind of melts it. It does melt it. It diminishes it because I'm no longer feeding the energy of resistance more resistance.
Yeah.
And what is resistance? Blame and complain. So the narratives in the mind will be in blaming and complaining either someone or something outside me or something inside me. But that is resistance for me, and that is judgment as well summed up.
And if I can ask a question just for clarity, because I know also in the beginning for me, when I was also doing this, there was some confusion in terms of, so now I'm sitting there waiting for my mind to clear. And am I correct in saying that when you say that clearing is the feeling in your body? It's not what your head will clear as well.
So there might even still be thoughts in the mind of that nature, but you are no longer attached to it. Yes. You have reached the place where you can stand back again.
So it's that relaxed nervous system that we were talking about earlier. It's like, and I'm saying this because I'm also asking for clarity for myself, because I have a method, and like you said, or like I said, I go sit under a tree and look for a new, more loving perspective.
That's also very valuable, by the way. I just want to tell the listeners that your method is spot on.
So that for me, nature is very important. If ever I'm feeling uncomfortable in my body, I go into nature and I will sit there. So it's not like I'm waiting for or asking for a more loving perspective. I will sit there until that sensation turns from discomfort or suffering to almost, it's like I can feel it's like a warm sensation. It's almost like I look at it as the alchemy. It turns into a sensation of bliss.
Where the lead turns into gold.
Yes, and so when that feeling turns, and it's almost like now I can sit here all day because I feel lacquer. Then the more loving perspective will come.
Exactly that. No, you got a spot on, Stephen. That's why meditation is truly key. Like I said to Candace this morning, after coming out of a dense wake up this morning, we had such a blissful day yesterday. We went to go and watch I think it's Ngluvu, I can't remember exactly the name of the choir. That choir, that South African choir that made it into the finals of America's Got Talent.
Okay.
And we went to go watch them live at Monty. And good Lord, I cried almost through the whole thing from just pure bliss of it felt like the spirit of Africa expressing itself through all those people. And it was unbelievable. And after that, we came home and relaxed a little bit, and there was a bit of time to put on a movie. And whatever the movie was that we chose kind of pulled us in, and it looked interesting, but we quickly realized that, okay, this thing is all about the feeling of who's to blame here. Like injustice. It's all about injustice and who's to blame. And in other words, enemy. So it was enemy. And by the time we were done, okay, cool, it was a cool movie, but then when we went to sleep, the dreams were all of that nature. Now, who's to blame and who's to this and this? And I woke up, personally, I woke up in density. Sure. Like I woke up feeling uncomfortable and dense. And I was like, oh my God, again, how many times do I have to watch these type of movies before I stop? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so knowing at least that I can clear this in meditation. We got up and went and sat in our meditation for the morning. I think we got up at about 4:30 or something. And we went and we sat in our meditation. And I think our meditation was about an hour and a half. So it wasn't like 2-3 hours. It was just an hour and a half. But we cleared all of it. Yes. All of it. So the methods that we use to purify our systems and to purify our fields are so powerful that nothing can stick, you know, and we decide, like specifically me, I will decide that if there's anything in my field that feels uncomfortable, I will sit until it is clean. So I've adopted all the methods to be able to do that. And of course, Vipassana is the most powerful. Vipassana is just a method that just, it burns through everything. And once you really know the method, then it is spectacular to have that in your toolbox. But point being, and I said to Candice after the meditation that I cannot understand how people can survive in this world without meditation.
Yeah.
How can you survive? How can you go and wake up in that density and take that poison into your day?
It's such an interesting thing that you said that, because I was chatting to Maria the other day. We went for a walk and she was telling me about a friend, and her friend's struggling with cancer, and she's trying a whole lot of different things. And she's like, yeah, she's doing the medical route, and she's also got a bit of energy work, and she's working with meditation, but she really is struggling with, you know, finding time. And I said, and so we were talking about this, and I let Maria finish talking, and I said to her, the reason she doesn't have time is because she doesn't understand what meditation can do. If she understood what the meditation would do, she would be meditating all day long.
The whole day, like literally, yeah.
So, and it's that understanding, and I can say with absolute certainty, because I was meditating a long time before I went to Vipassana. But when I went to Vipassana, there was a clear understanding. There's like a real-time, tangible, you can feel how your body is changing.
Yes.
And
how your field clears and purifies.
Yes, and the thought, I remember being there thinking, I don't understand why I am not meditating all day. You know, and you can go, because Maria's not argument, she said, but yes, but you've got to be also part of this world. And I said to her, yes, that's true, but the meditation that I'm talking about is not to get into the astral space. And yes, it can do, but that where she is, it's specifically to clear whatever is causing.
Because Vipassana takes you into the now and into the body.
Yes.
And the body is the place that you need to enter to be able to function perfectly, or no, I want to say perfectly, to function more capably in this world.
Yeah.
So you can only reach enlightenment through the body, and all the teachers say that.
Yes.
And Vipassana is the thing that takes you into the body so that you can purify the body and the energy systems, all four bodies, because we have four bodies, the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual body. And Vipassana clears all of those.
So it's interesting you say that, because I can't remember what I was listening to last night. I think it might have been something that you sent to me from that Kerry Kay.
Yes.
And she was talking about bringing light in as one of the roles, right? And then this morning in my meditation, because I've started up in my meditation, and it's not your 3 hours, but I've gone from 1 hour to 1.5. And because I was sitting at 1 hour, and it was just like I'm sitting there, so so now I've upped it to 1.5, and I've noticed I'm now working with a lot of physical discomfort.
Awesome.
And so when you said that now, I realized, okay, so also when I watched with that video, it's the bringing the light into the body, and that sitting with it and that discomfort is the releasing of the darkness. Is that
Yes.
yes?
100%.
So the more
and the
I
darkness,
sit
as
in
we
that
see, is resistance.
equanimity with
Yes.
that pain, that physical discomfort, it's releasing it. It's allowing it to have a voice
Yes.
that it's never been heard before. And
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the equanimity. Let's just speak a little bit about the state of equanimity, because if you understand that your mental process is where you need to be equanimous, in the mental body and the emotional body is where you need to be equanimous, because the spirit body is equanimity. And if you bring that in and I'm going to explain it in simple terms, but you can actually only understand it once you've experienced it. But just the method of reaching equanimity for me was in Vipassana. Now I sit and I feel that physical discomfort in the body, because now the physical body is starting to complain. Yeah. But the complaints that are physical then very quickly become mental. So the thinking system starts, now there's a character, ping, that says, my body, my pain, I am so sore, this is hell, oh my God, whatever the mental process is. Yes. And equanimity would be when you let go of that mental process.
Yes.
So there's no longer a character. There's no me, mine, or I. There's no character anymore that feeds that by saying, I can't take this anymore, my leg's gonna fall off, this is madness. There's no more mental process. There is just silence, observing the sensation, not even calling it pain anymore, not even calling it discomfort anymore. There is now silence, which is presence. And this is now when spirit comes in, when there is presence, and presence is practiced with the anapana that we practice for the first 4 days before we enter Vipassana. So the stronger your anapana, the stronger your Vipassana is going to be. And as you now observe this sensation with pure equanimity, no mind. It's just like, There's no contraction that says, oh my God, okay, I need to be sharp now. Okay, here comes another sankara. Okay, let's work through this. All stories.
So am I correct in saying, so the chaos is still there, but there's no attachment? The nervous system is relaxed, right?
100%. The nervous system is absolutely relaxed.
Okay, so I have my understanding, so a very good way for me to explain this to people, and I want you to maybe see what you say or have your opinion on what I say, because if I'm explaining this correctly. But I've noticed this with the cold water. So when I get into the cold water, this process can be explained so quickly, and it's so can be brought into so many aspects of your life. When you get into the cold water and the mind's telling me, I've got to get out, I've got to do all these different things. And when you can relax the nervous system, there's a sensation that comes across your body. And I almost want to describe it like a warm sensation, but it's just, it's the nervous system. Relaxing. It's like, okay, I'm cool.
Yes.
And it's still cold, where there's still the chaos, like we spoke about.
Yes.
But now you can sit there.
In your center.
In your center. So now, this lesson from the cold water is what we're talking about now. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so that you can bring into any aspect of your life.
That is the point of doing Vipassana and the point of doing cold water plunges. That is exactly the point why we do those practices, because it trains your nervous system.
Correct.
To the moment that there is reaction, there is consciousness that can override the reaction.
So it creates a gap.
100%.
And so now you can see the chaos and they have the opportunity to surrender it.
Yes, to no longer be the character that complains about the chaos or thinks that he or she is not safe.
Yes.
Because that is what you're overriding. Because the moment that the body goes into the cold water or the pain comes up, there's danger, danger, danger. And then you're saying, no danger, all is well.
And so if anybody ever wants to experience that, I invite you to go into cold water. And for me, normally 3-5 minutes. If you can sit in there, breathe, get into your center, and there is a distinct
there's a moment where you pop out,
where you will feel there's a different sensation in your body, and you will understand what we are talking about, and that lesson you will use throughout your life.
100%. It's very valuable, because and the more regularly you do that, the more you train the mind, or actually consciousness, to pop out of the noise of the mind, to step out of the matote. You come into the stillness. And then from there, when you are in a relaxed nervous system, then there is more consciousness and more presence that makes different choices about the next action. Then it turns from reaction to response.
Yes.
And when you respond, you are in your ability to respond, your responsibility, and that's where God is.
And now you're consciously creating.
100%.
Because now
Instead
you're
of
choosing
reaction,
as
instead
opposed
of
to
unconsciously.
reacting. Yeah.
Spot on.
Nice. Cool. Michael, thank you, man. This was like
Thank you, Stephen. This was awesome.
Always love
Thanks,
chatting
man.
to you.
100%. Yeah, thanks.
And,
We'll definitely do this again.
Yes.
Thank you to all that observed.
Thanks, guys.
Much love.